All right. Well, this morning we saw US investors trigger a sell off, a major sell off across Wall Street, which then trickled into the Asian markets. And then we saw Nifty and Sensex and our own benchmark indices open as well as, have a weak session of trade. The Nifty, remember, just yesterday crossed that 25,000 mark, and the Sensex just yesterday surpassed that 82,000 level for the first time ever. And today we saw significant losses, investor wealth completely eroded. So, really, the impact of geopolitical tensions and global cues at large on oil prices and equity markets. To decode all of this, we're joined by Ambareesh Baliga, market expert. Thanks very much for your time. Going forward, where are markets headed? The big question for all investors, all tracking the stock markets very, very closely, that what does this mean for India's stock markets? The fact that US investors have triggered this major Wall Street sell off and recession fears have resurfaced on weak US economic cues. What does that mean for India and for rest of the world?
Uh, Now, coming to the markets, if you see the last couple of days, as far as the Indian markets are concerned, we were finding it difficult to cross 25,000. And if you see the high, just before it crossed 25,000, the high was just 0.25 points below 25,000. And then yesterday we saw the markets crossing 25,000, but at the same time, it was only led by the index majors, whereas there was selling in the mid cap and the small cap side of the market, which clearly showed that there was some amount of distribution happening. Keeping the index high, there was distribution happening on in the rest of the market. And overnight, the sort of news which has been flowing since yesterday, but it was confirmed overnight about the Middle East tensions. I think that's what has blown off the cap as far as the markets is concerned. So we should see further correction in case there is like any further escalation in the tensions out there. But as of now, we really don't know whether it will escalate or not. So people are a bit cautious. I would say very cautious at this point of time. But I think the only silver lining as far as our markets are concerned is that we haven't fallen much more than where we opened at, so it's holding on at those levels, and we have seen some amount of buying, happening at those lower levels, but we don't know whether it will continue or not. So my advice to investors who've been actually holding on for a long time is book some profits here, because anyway we are extremely close to the recent highs which we saw yesterday, so not losing much. So book some profits if you haven't booked profits till date.
All right. So those, of course, wondering for the long term, then what should their approach be? And those concerned about if these geopolitical tensions rise, then how will this impact the equity market at large and oil prices? Will equity markets then be a lot more volatile? What would you say to them?
I think it's a bit too early to say anything about that because we don't know as to how much it can escalate. Again, the hope is that it will not escalate much. We have seen these sort of warning signals in the past, but things have got settled. So it can be this. It can be a similar situation this time, but difficult to speculate. So the best thing to do at this point of time would be to have some cash in hand. So that's the reason I said sell. Sell partially, have some cash in hand, and in case the market's correct because of this, I think that's a buying opportunity. Because if you're looking at Indian markets in the longer run, I think it will be one of the few markets which will give you excellent returns because the economy is expected to grow. We are talking of Viksit Bharat 2047, which means that the economy has to grow in a major way going ahead. So markets will perform, but that does not mean that the markets will move up in a single line. There will be corrections and there will be major corrections in between. And as investors, we need to utilize those corrections to improve our returns.
All right. So in the last 2 days, we have seen these dramatic movements in stock markets. Thank you so much for decoding that for our viewers and sharing your insights.